Well, shalom everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to continue looking at Rabbi Avigdor Miller's new translation and commentary of Duties of the Mind based off the works of Rabbi Bakir ibn Pakuda. There, I'm holding it up there for you. First volume is quite a small affair. It's not a very big book, but nonetheless, it's what they call a page turner, to be sure. In the morning audios that I send out, we are actually well on our way into volume 2, and we are a little bit behind on our YouTube videos, but that's okay. That's okay. It's great to be able to sort of go through the work sort of again and perhaps get something totally new out of each particular topic as we go through them. Now, we had just completed the subject of the role of the mind, what role the actual mind should actually play in a Torah observant person, depending on what level of Torah observance is applicable to you, depending on who you are. And now we're looking at some obstacles to overcome, and that's literally what part 13 is called, obstacles to overcome. And just to sort of go over a few things that we've looked at before, this is what is called the silent service, because it is a world that Hashem judges among three worlds. That is the world of speech, the world of action, and the world of thought, which is what the subject of these videos is dealing with. And the world of thought is the engine room or the ignition switch of actions that we do or things that we say, whether they be good or whether they be bad. And so to have control over the mind is to, by proxy, have control over what we say and what we do, and even have the right intention when we say certain things that are great, good things to say, and do certain things that are mitzvot. So sometimes we can even say and do things, but we just don't have the correct intention behind them, and that can make us fall short. That can rob us of getting the most out of anything that we choose to do to serve Kadesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. So let's get into it. We're up to page 111, and I encourage you to get a hold of this series and follow through with me. And who am I? I'm nobody. I am a lowly Noahide. I am a Noahide with a twist, in that I do believe that Yeshua ben Yosef HaNazaret, who the world mistakenly call Jesus, there is definitely some substance to what he did and what he said, and but for the most part, my lifestyle mirrors most closely that of a Noahide. My mother wasn't born Jewish, and I have not converted. Neither can I convert with my current stance. And if you are an Orthodox Jew watching this channel, get off YouTube. There's nothing here for you, unless you're doing it for research purposes, in which case I'll save you the time and let you know up front that you would see this channel's hashkafa as being apikorsut, that is heretical. So just saved you, wasting your time. Okay, so let's get into it. So obstacles to overcome. There is nothing that can interfere with the mitzvot of the mind other than, number one, the love of the world, and number two, ignorance. So there's only two obstacles that will get you to drop the ball in terms of your thought life, and that is the love of materialism, the love of the world, the love of fame, the love of things. Whatever that may be, whatever floats your boat, as they say, or just being ignorant, just not being aware. This is when a person starts loving worldly things which are outside the framework of normal religious life, such as attending empty entertainments. These things work in opposition to the duties of the mind. When a person indulges himself in leisure activities in which he is not attending to mitzvot, the dutiful mind cries out, "But you need to take care of me. We are like a servant in a house, and the duties of the house present us with obligations at all times." So what does that mean? That means that when you live in a dwelling, obviously a house which has a interior and an exterior. If you're living in an apartment with no exterior, not even a balcony, or maybe you've got a balcony, this mashal, this analogy isn't really going to work. There are outside duties to attend to, like mowing the lawn and keeping the outside nice. And there are internal duties that are required inside the house, like cleaning the bathroom, make sure the kitchen's clean and neat and tidy, and laundry's kept on top of. And the duties of the mind are like the duties that are required inside the house, which always need attendance and can always be attended to, while as the exterior of the home, the yard, is the analogy of speech and action. Sometimes when it is bad weather, it's not possible for a person to go out and tend to the needs of the yard because it's snowing, because it's a storm, maybe it's a tornado, heaven forbid, coming through your way. Either way, you aren't always availed the occasion of doing outside yard work, but inside yard work is always required and it can always be done. We need to train ourselves to avoid becoming excited over unnecessary and superfluous things. Of course, we may find it necessary to engage in making a living, taking care of our health, and attending to family affairs. However, we should try to be as little burdened with the superfluous concerns as possible. A person should know that if he occupies his mind with unimportant thoughts, there won't be any place left for the important thoughts. The unimportant thoughts which preoccupy the mind are often referred to as tirdah, which is the first obstacle of the mind. As is also described in Mesillat Yesharim, a person is subject to tirdah if he has too many thoughts on his mind. People load up their minds with all the kinds of worries, and extraneous melchot disputations fall under the category of tirdah. And we looked at the Mesillat Yesharim. There's actually a 4-volume set, a New Translation Commentary by Rabbi Avigdor Miller, of the Mesillat Yesharim as well. So there's unimportant thoughts and important thoughts. Now, there's mundane thoughts, which are deemed unimportant. Thoughts that, you have to go and make sure you pay your phone bill. Maybe you have to go and visit the dentist and make sure you make your appointment, and that occupies a portion of your mind. And these thoughts are obviously important to have because it's important that we live and that we take care of ourselves. But there are also thoughts that aren't even there for the purpose of our mundane existence. People load up their minds with all kinds of worries and extraneous thoughts which impede their avodat Hashem, impede their service to Hashem. Even sinah, that is illness, and machloket, that is disputation, fall under the category of tirdah. In addition, jealousy and superfluous tavat, appetites and lusts, are all parts of the Lord's ability to supply a person's mind with opportunities to waste his life. And so what happens is a person will gravitate towards seeking pleasure and seeking the satiation of their desires. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything unlawful about whatever this person's pursuing. Maybe they like playing golf, maybe they like, going on an overseas trip. None of these things are sinful in of themselves. But if the person becomes loaded down by doing these things, and then his avodat Hashem suffers, then obviously there's a problem. The other things that can prevent us from fulfilling the mitzvot of the mind is number 2, arrogance. That is when we don't understand the whole concept of our Creator. If a person doesn't know what to think about, it means he never learned the subject, and so will not be able to perform the mitzvot of the mind. There is so much to know about Hashem that we are unable to begin this function unless we know what to think about, which is so true. Let us say a person is willing to give up all distracting thoughts and perform mitzvot of the mind. He says to himself, Hineni mekun hamazuman, I'm ready and prepared to think, but he doesn't know what to think. For this reason, the author is going to teach us many examples of what to think about. Here's one, for example. Make a list. Suppose you start to think about Hashem. Suppose you start to think what Hashem is doing for you, and that is, you think about all the benefits you are getting from Hashem. So that's a really good place to start. So get out a piece of paper, get out a pen, and write down all the things that Hashem is actually benefiting you with. And you can start with the obvious. Eyesight is pretty important. If we lost our eyesight within a second, our lives would change dramatically, and we would miss out on a large majority of the current goodness of life that we're experiencing if we lose our eyesight. So you probably have that near the top of your list. And then you would put, the ability to think, the ability to have a sound mind. If something is wrong with your mind, then everything else is off kilter and can't be rectified. So you'd start by listing these things, and you'd go down and you'd list things like you're thankful for your internal organs, you're thankful for your blood, you're thankful for your skeleton, you're thankful for your skin, you're thankful for your job, you're thankful for the paycheck that you get from your job. You're thankful that you're married. You're thankful that you have children. Or you might be thankful that you aren't married. Maybe you're in a bad relationship. Maybe you're thankful that you have kids that you're very proud of, that are doing you proud. It's really, the list is going to be quite huge. But you'll be surprised as you start writing them down and start reciting them and rattling them off, you'll find that your head begins to clear and you start to really allow yourself to put yourself into perspective of what you should be happier about, and it really causes sadness to be pushed aside or to evaporate, really. You start your list by remembering that you eat every day and that you don't have any serious sicknesses. There you go, there's some other great ones there. You realize that you haven't seen a soldier in battle, or not seen a soldier in battle. You haven't been a soldier in battle. Anybody who's fought in a war or been involved in war as a soldier, and that they have experienced combat, or maybe they've been somebody who was in a vehicle that exploded after it rode over an IED. I met a guy once who since passed away, and he was getting sort of lined up to be discharged on sick leave. Anyway, he passed away from a mysterious illness, and this guy was a commando, and he fought in Afghanistan. And I used to wonder why he used to come to the gymnasium. There was a gym on base, extremely late. And I got talking to him one day, and I found that he had an illness that I forget the name of it. That every day it affects him. It causes his actual body to operate as though he were a 90-year-old man. But as the day progresses, after he gets up in the morning he's literally got to walk around with a truss. He actually gets better to the point where he's in normal health by the time it's almost ready to go to bed. And so this is why I used to see him get to the gym so late, and it was just such a bizarre illness. If anybody knows the name of it, feel free to put it in the comments. But yeah, by the time as the day wore on, he got progressively better, and that would happen every day. And this individual, had some stories to tell about his encounter in battle, his encounters in battle and his experiences, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrifying stuff. And so, that's something you can thank the Almighty for, that you haven't been involved as a soldier in war. You've never been in war. You've never been drafted. You have never gone through the pain of divorce. You have children, so you're not childless. You then think about all the thousands of things that you have. You have 2 good eyes and a job. You also have a place to live in, whether it's your own home or rented. And so you start thinking there is no end to the obligations of gratitude. And that's interesting, because you should thank Hashem even if you're renting. A person who's renting, there's a whole heap of things a person who's renting that they don't have to worry about compared to a person who owns the home they're living in, and vice versa. So there's pros and cons. And so whatever the case, you're avoiding a whole myriad of certain types of pains if you're owning or renting one way or the other. It just depends what are the things that you like the least, and you avoid them. At any rate, you can thank Hashem as long as you have a roof over your head. Maybe you've been allowed to stay with somebody for a period of time, so you thank Hashem for that person opening their home to you. All of these thoughts are part of one mitzvah that you must do to spend time thinking what Hashem is doing for you. However, that's only one branch of the subject. There are many other branches. So, think about it. Have you ever sat down and actually done that? Have you ever, sat down? Maybe you've kind of done something similar to that. We're meant to do that quite a bit, as frequently as we can. And it causes us to stop in our tracks and avoids us from developing ego or pride or becoming arrogant. Think about the past. Each day in the Hodu prayer, you say, and it's from Tehillim 105:5, remember his wonders that he has done, his marvels and the judgments of his mouth. So, I don't know whether you've ever read Psalm 105 verse 5 and gone, that's talking about all the wonders that Hashem has done pertaining to me in that I have been born, which is miracle number one. And I came into the world without any issues or minimal issues. Some babies are born with maladies. And, I have grown into a healthy young man or a healthy young female, a woman. I'm actually quite athletic, and I can run, I'm the age that I am, I can still do a mad dash, I can still run across a field or something like that. Maybe you're quite fit for your age. And also the judgments of his mouth. Hashem has been merciful to you throughout the years for you to get to this point. If you start going through and looking at all the things that you've done and how Hashem has blessed you despite some of the things you've done, if you spend some time to think about some of the darker things you've done in your life, then Hashem has been merciful to you in judgment also. And so it just opens up this whole new area of things to think about. Remember the wonders that he has done. You are being asked to think about the miracles that Hashem did for us in the past. You have to think about the Mamad HaSinai, the revelation of Mount Sinai. How often do you think about that? That the Torah was given in a public event to the entirety of the nation of Israel. How often do you think about the miracles of Kriyat Yom Suf, which is the splitting of the Red Sea? And you can do a whole study on the actual the amount of miracles that actually took place at the Yom Suf, at the Red Sea, is just phenomenal. There's miracles that took place there you probably never even thought about in a million years. One of the miracles being the miraculous decision by the Egyptians to pursue the nation of Israel into the tunnels. Egyptians are very superstitious, and a lot of the nations that they hired as mercenaries, because most of the nation of Egypt was decimated at that point, are highly superstitious, and seeing a land formation that they'd never seen before in that part of the world would have frightened a lot of people, especially people in ancient times, and they would have run a mile. And so Hashem made a miracle that they all thought it was a section of landmass that they just hadn't seen before, which is insane. They had to be given all this miraculous mindset to go, this is just a part of the Yam Suf along its shores line that we haven't seen before. And this was probably the greatest miracle of all. How could you get these people to be convinced to go into these tunnels, these 12 corridors? And then when going into the corridors, seeing how they were arrayed with tree lines and fresh water and fruit to be plucked from as the Israelites walked, as they were going along the tunnels, fear would have enveloped them and going, this is not right. This is not real. This is too, why haven't we seen this before? And you start thinking about that. And so you're not even thinking about the water being transformed in a miraculous time frame and being hardened to the point that it was like a rock, that it could take the weight of so many people. It just boggles the mind. You need to think about the Mekot, that is the 10 plagues in Mitzrayim. You need to think about what Hashem did for Avraham Avinu when he was in his journeys. As you say in Hodu, that is a prayer that we often say, giving thanks to Hashem, and it comes from Psalm 105:14. Does it? No. Psalm 14 says, and they wandered from nation to nation, from one kingdom to another people. He allowed no man to rob them and rebuke kings for their sake. Abraham was continually helped by Hashem in so many ways, and so there are thousands of things to think about. However, if you don't know how to focus, what to focus on, you won't do it. And normally we're too distracted by what's happening in Ukraine and Russia and Donald Trump and who's going to win the grand final. And so the world has very cleverly taken the place of the Torah for most people. This completes the explanation of the two obstacles. One obstacle presents itself even if a person knows what to think about, but his mind is so occupied with other things, he has no opportunity to use his mind for what he needs a mind for. And the second obstacle arises even if he is not occupied, but he does not know what to think about. There's a review here. There are certain mitzvot which are not in our ability to do all the time, but the mitzvot halev are always available. There are only two obstacles that prevent us from fulfilling them. One occurs when a person falls in love with worldly things and they compete with the thoughts that should have occupied his mind. This is when he becomes enamored of worldly pursuits, such as art, travel, entertainment, and thousands of things that people do to occupy their leisure and stimulate their interests. People, all of a sudden they become enamored by the latest Netflix series, and so they're all about this latest series and the episodes that are unfolding, and it's all the buzz on various social media platforms, YouTube and so on and so forth, and there's people writing reviews, there's interviews with cast and characters and all these sorts of things, and a person just gets wrapped up in all these things, and one thing leads to another thing, and the next day they're into that, and the next day they're into that, and the whole while they're not learning about the mind of the Kadesh Baruch Hu. They've switched off, and they haven't even really noticed because they've been so busy following their interests and their what's going to happen next week. He allows himself to get involved with things that take his mind away from its main purpose, which is serving his creator. The second obstacle occurs when he doesn't know what to think about because he never learned this subject. The author now points to the verse in the Tanakh which illustrates both obstacles. As it is said, quoting from Yeshaya, Isaiah 5:12, there are harp and lyre, drum and flute, and wine at their drinking parties. There is a reference to people who are always interested in music. They do not look at what Hashem has accomplished, and they do not see the work of his hands. So, you might get somebody who's sort of into a particular genre of music, and they've got their own YouTube channel, and so they're always sort of across all the latest information on this particular genre or style of music. And, and they're doing video after video after video on these things, and they're, and it's not sinful. It doesn't, it's not like it's, something that's obviously a sin, but this is their passion and they're consumed by it. And, they probably never really picked up a Bible in their life, let alone reading a commentary on any subject or ever wanting to delve into maybe why they're here on the earth. Most people come to the earth and leave the earth not even knowing what they were here for in the first place. And it doesn't bother them because they fill their head full of junk. And that junk keeps them like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, look at the pretty lights over there. Oh, what's over there? What are you doing? Oh. And then the next minute they're in the nursing home and they don't know who's who, and they don't remember things, and it's all over. Don't let that be you. Just don't let it be you. Pray to Hashem now and say, Hashem, please, tell me, give me the wherewithal to ask what it is I'm doing here and what it is I'm here to do, to rectify, to fix. I don't want to leave this world and having failed what my mission is. And everybody is here for a reason. Everybody has a mission. And it can be something really kind of left field and mundane, or it can be something really complex. It just depends what you're here for. You have to find out, and you can. You just continue to inquire to Hashem. And it's usually whatever you're struggling with is related to why you're here. That's the truth. That's reality. Because they are too busy looking for pleasures. The first obstacle, they don't even know that there is such a thing as looking at the world around them and seeing the greatness of Hashem and his wisdom. They have been so preoccupied with good times or looking for good times that they never learned that they have an obligation to think about the work of his hands, and they wouldn't know what to think about anyway. The second obstacle. They don't know that there is such a thing as looking at the world and seeing Hashem's greatness. Very interesting topic. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll leave it there. That takes us to part 14. Part 15, which is a mitzvot of unlimited breadth. Mitzvot of unlimited breadth, that is width. That is our next topic. Thank you so much for joining me. That takes us to page 114. Until next time, bye for now.